Experts predicting huge increases in hospital admissions during the week because of the heat wave. Dr. Nigat Arif is here to help you stay healthy in the sun. Basically, what are your initial impressions about the temperature and, you know, the obvious things that people tend to miss?
Well, it's really interesting at the moment that the Met Office has put out this heat warning because it is essentially this heat wave that we're getting. Remember, every year we get 2,000 deaths in England from the heat wave because it affects our physical health. So the people that we most worry...
across age groups?
It's across age group, but mostly it's going to be children, elderly, pregnant women. It's going to be people with underlying health conditions, so chronic kidney disease, diabetes, heart conditions, etc. People who have mobility problems, so we've also got Parkinson's disease patients and dementia patients. And the one category that always gets missed are the perimenopausal, menopausal age, because these women have already contending with hot flushes, and then with the heat on top of that...
I can't bear the heat.
I get so many women saying to me, Dr. Arif, I just cannot deal with this heat. So there's lots that we can do, but in these categories, these group of people that we need to be most particularly wearable. Now, lots of people know about the vulnerable group. So it's, again, those categories of people. And it's just being really sensible about being safe in the sun. Because we're not used to the sun.
We don't want to be doom and gloom because we love to see the sun. Everyone's having such a good time. People look happy in the sunshine. So what about precautions if you're going to go for a day out in the sun, you're going to the beach? What should you be doing before you go? Yeah,
so preparation is always absolutely paramount. Make sure you've got your sun cream, make sure you've got lots of bottles of water, ice, cold packs are great ways of doing it. And also there's neck cold packs as well. So women who suffer from flushes, they're great. You can
Maybe
also...
I could wear one through this show.
Yeah, wear one if you want to.
I'm always going, so hot in here.
It's actually quite, yeah. And the thing is that the preparation is going to be key, but the other thing is that making sure that you're drinking a lot of water.
Yeah.
What happens in the heat is that our body is constantly trying to get our core temperature to be remaining between 36 and 37 Celsius, because that's where we like, regardless of what's going on around us. And so when the core temperature is trying to get that strain right back to where it should be, the blood vessels raise up in our bloodstream, we end up expending heat. That sweating process is trying to cool that down. And that strain is what puts us into that heat exhaustion.
Yes, and it can raise your blood pressure, things like that.
Yeah,
How do you
raise your blood pressure and also lower your blood pressure, Eamon. That's the other thing that we need to know, because as you lose fluid, you're losing these essential salts in that.
But listen, can we help ourselves with that? Because I'm thinking about what we eat, you know, how we behave on that front.
So the first thing is fluids are key. And there's no standard at the moment, but making sure that you're drinking between 2 to 4 litres is great. The other thing is making sure that looking at medications that you might be eating already. So, for example, there are certain patients who are on diuretics. That means they are actively going to be peeing out because that's what the tablet does. And making sure that you're also having ice popsicle, ice chips as well. And it's all about
like sweetie ice lollies?
Yeah, ice lollies are fine. The dentists will hate me because I'm saying sweetie ice lollies. But
all the dentists now going, no.
But ice chips are fine. And for children, in this time, the water content is the bit that we need, especially if it's got a little bit of sugar and salt in it, because that will hydrate you better.
So if you're on the beach with your kids, I've got a friend of mine, she makes her children, like, every half an hour come to her and she makes them drink a cup of water, otherwise they're not allowed to go and play again.
Yeah. That's exactly what you need to do, is prompting them. And it's particularly those who have dementia as well, because they forget. They sit out in the sun and they don't realise that they've dehydrated. A really good tip of noting how you can do that is that if you pinch the back of the hand, pinch it up, and if it falls straight back, you know that you're well hydrated.
Oh, no, I wasn't expecting this morning.
But if it falls back, if it takes about, so that pinged back really nicely.
Right,
but if it takes about 2 to 3 seconds to ping back, then you know that this person is actually lacking in fluids.
How dangerous is dehydration?
Well, dehydration is dangerous because you can end up getting what's known as heat exhaustion. So the symptoms of heat exhaustion are tiredness, fatigue, sleepiness, headaches, muscle cramps that people
got all that yesterday. Yeah.
Were you dehydrated?
Well, people say to you, do you drink enough? And then you think, probably not. Do you drink the 2 litres? The thing I'm more concerned about, we're all sedentary, going on holiday, doing all this. This is what we're talking about, kids playing in the back garden. What about, I always worry about people who work, maybe people who are digging roads and painters and decorators and, you know, people who are really doing manual stuff there.
And it's even simple things like if you're doing cleaning around the house, you're going to be expending that energy. So that's where the fluid intake is really important. So about, I would say, 2 to 4 litres is great. And then the other thing that we need to be really careful of that, you mentioned heat exhaustion there earlier for me, Ruth, is that can lead into heat stroke. So there's a real difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So if you notice heat stroke, that's severe lethargy, seizures, loss of consciousness. That's a medical emergency, and always call 999 for an ambulance.
Is there a difference between what you drink? Is liquid, or is something better than the other? I mean, if I take a soft drink or a cordial as opposed to water, is that doing me equally as much good, or is it doing me harm in some way?
So this is where everybody's going to be really happy. The viewers are going to be happy with me. Teas, coffees, cordials, they all actually contribute to all your water content. The bit that you're not going to be happy with me about is alcohol content. So I'm sorry, alcohol is a dehydrant. So if you're drinking above the recommended amount, which is 14 units a week, then you will be dehydrated. So be really careful about that.
Are you sure your skin popped back?
It did pop back.
I did watch.
Very quickly, so we're running out of time, as always. What should you do if you think someone has heat exhaustion, not heat stroke, but just you see, well, I've had a bit too much sun, I'm feeling a bit dizzy or a bit sick. What do you do?
Simple things, fluid intake, get to a shaded area. If they've been out in the sun, lather yourself up in sunscreen as much as possible. Cool showers, cold packs under the armpits, etc. Sit them in front of a fan if need to be. And a great little tip, if you put ice cubes in front of the fan, that actually gets that water content out and cools you down much, much quicker.
Doc, let me tell you this is a private, personal problem between you and me. I sit with a fan on me. I am so exhausted. By the time I come in from work, I'm so exhausted with my disability at the moment and everything. I'm drained. And maybe sometimes I ask for a request, could I have my food on my lap and things like that, which never goes down well.
Without
but anyway,
a plate.
But I'm sitting there and I'm in my recliner chair and I've got a fan on me, right? And I fall asleep. I always wake up with a headache.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That's because you're sweating while you're falling asleep. You need lots of stuff. Your immune system and your body temperature is trying to get you into that core temperature. So that strain on you. So when you wake up, the first thing is you're thirsty. And when you're not getting enough pressure going up to the head, you get a headache.
Gotcha. Thanks for that.
Maybe you should try getting out of the chair and moving around a bit, possibly.
And having a
I'm not going to comment.
Get your own dinner.
having a cold shower, get a moon dinner. My wife made a beautiful cottage pie last night. It was so good. I had 2 helpings.
I noticed
when you went to bed, I went out and had some more.
Because I'm like the food police. I come down in the morning and what's he been up to tonight?
Very good.
Is it Weetabix?
I love that, the food police. That's what we need. We sometimes need that in the house.
Doctor, we could do a whole programme with you, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick.
Appreciate it, thank you. In just a moment, we're heading down under.